What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View and welcome back to episode 33 of the Trinity podcast. Once again, sponsored by Dan Gore. Snuck that last bit. I feel like we can say that now. He's back. He was in the squad, on Thursday.
I don't want to put that pressure on Dan Gore.
Yeah.
I don't want to put that pressure on him. He's just fit. He just snuck into the squad faster than Harry Almas did, which is interesting.
Very true.
Yeah, he just returned. Nope. Not for me. I'm not going to put the pressure on him. Let's let him fully, it's like sponsoring this podcast by Malasia. Would you do that? That's well out of order. No. Especially where we are. Especially where we are right now.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. As you can see on the screen on the left, Flex is missing. Last seen looking for Dan Gore. He was in the same country as him, so that does make sense. As you would have seen with Man United over the last couple of days, the travel back and forth from Portugal there's been a lot of delays, a lot of fog, the weather. So yes, Flex has been delayed with that. And to be honest, I don't blame him. After watching the match day vlog and everything he went through on that trip, it was a rough one. It was a rough one. I think it was a rough one for everyone, to be honest. Watching Manchester United over the last 24 hours, KG. We've got some interesting stuff actually to talk about here. So at the time recording, we were just about to hit record for you lovely people and get the content flowing. And then just saw in the last couple of minutes at the time recording some quotes from minority owner of Manchester United, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, talking publicly about Erik ten Hag. Of course, his future is hanging in the balance, particularly after results in the Premier League. What is it? 2 wins at the last 9 games. I think it was something like that, or 3 wins, whatever it may be. It's not good. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe was asked about that. He's actually celebrating. Talk about a bit of a downer. He's celebrating because Great Britain won the America's Cup. And
he did.
Jim, yeah,
he was. We haven't done that. That's the first time.
Since 1964, first time.
I remember the interview talking about, he's drafted in the best people in this and how we haven't done well in this competition and, sailing's been. I remember this interview that he gave. Yeah. Well done to him.
Well, they've qualified. Excuse me. They've qualified for the first time since 1964. I haven't won it. Qualified for the first time, but it's a big achievement. Big achievement. I'm not well versed in my sailings, but GB have reached America's Cup final for the first time in 60 years. A big achievement, certainly, for Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. So naturally, once you've got the opportunity to speak to him, you're going to ask him about Manchester United at the moment, and he had some interesting things to say. It was quite non-committal actually about Erik ten Hag's future. KG. So when he was asked if he still has faith in Erik ten Hag, he said, "I don't want to answer that question. I like Erik. I think he's a very good coach, but at the end of the day, it's not my call. It's the management. It's the management team that's running Manchester United that have to decide how we can best run the team in many different respects." Continues by saying, but that team that's running Manchester United has only been together since June or July. They weren't there in January, February, March, or April. Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, they only arrived in July. He says they've only been there. You can count it in weeks almost. They've not been there a long time, so they need to take some stock and make some sensible decisions. He also said, our objective is very clear. We want to take Manchester United back to where it should be, and it's not there yet. Obviously, that's very clear. What do you make of that?
Our survey says Erik ten Hag in control of Man United. Mate. Brother, guess what? That is beyond, that's so non-committal. If that's a relationship, start packing your bags. This person has no intentions of marrying you, making, no intentions. This is someone that literally said, we just got there, don't really know the place, and I just brought in a lot of new people. I like the guy, but, he actually starts the thing saying, don't want to answer that.
Don't answer that question.
Answering it in a way that is non-committal.
Yeah, well, if the first thing you say after I don't want to talk about that is, I like Erik, then you go, fuck. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when you're younger, and you got the strict parent. And they say, look, you can't do something. You can't have those sweets. So you go to the other parent and you go, come on, help me out here. And they go, hey, it's not my call.
Not my call.
It's not my call. They're playing good cop, yes, not sat on my hands. So you're looking at them going, but it is in your hands. If you say that I can have, you're in charge here. They're going, out of my hands, mate. I'm looking at, I heard that and I went, oh, he's distancing himself from what could be like a polarizing decision or whatever.
Not just distancing himself. He's distancing the owners, the people that done that long. Remember, they said all these people have just arrived, is what he said. They just got there in July, so they need time to make sensible decisions.
Yeah, right, Land. Yeah, and you know, we're saying basically, he's like, look, so Omar's cool, it's Dan Ashworth's cool. That's their decision to make. But you sort of go, and it's interesting because all of the reports would suggest that it would be Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth would say, like, okay, we think we should make this decision. But obviously, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe doesn't want Erik ten Hag to get sacked, he's not going to get sacked. So is essentially, if you read between the lines there, he is basically saying, whatever those guys say, we're going to do, basically.
Listen, mate, it's not my channel. I don't make the decisions.
Yeah. I don't make the titles and thumbnails. Yeah, that's he's basically said that. You know, so that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah. This is what we've come to. This is what it's become, man. You know what? Good on Sir Jim, because he's going. And if he's a poker player, he's the worst in the world when it comes to, I wonder how he feels. You know, Vince McMahon is never tell, never show, you know, never give anything away.
Never sell it.
Never sell it. That's it. Oh my God. Our guy, he's selling it like he's got a Stone Cold Stunner and he's The Rock. You see that The Rock goes up in the... He's oh my God. Yeah, that's all you need. All you need is Jim Ross. All you need in these moments when we're going to go down or we're winning a game, Panther Sir Jim and have Jim Ross talking. And it's son of a bitch! That bastard, yeah. You bastard! Has he got no heart? Does he have no conscience? Does he have no heart? Do you have no soul? You son of a bitch! These are all the things that's going through Sir Jim, and I don't even know who's he calling that bastard. I don't even know if that's towards the players, if that's towards Erik, if that's towards who's he angry at, but I know he's furious and he will make the decision. He will, because it couldn't have been, if you're interviewing Tuchel or whoever they're interviewing a day before the FA Cup or just whenever it was, right? You don't want the manager. There's a part of you that is like, and there must be like a consensus of people that are arguing and they're saying, we're still going to meet these people. It's worrying.
Do you think then, like, so the football leadership team, you know, like there's portions of the fan base now, like your Saeeds or whatever, that are like, I told you last season that this was not the right direction to go in. Do you think there are people then within the football leadership team that are like, I wasn't on board with this in the first place, you know what I mean? And I all right, you won over. Again, it's not my channel. Yes. So, all right, I decided to go with you. You know,
absolutely. Do you know why they do that? Do you know where it will bring them to that answer really quickly? And it's moments in the game that we should always look at. This manager said, bring me in a new backroom staff. Yeah. So I'm going to note these things down. You bring him in a new backroom staff. The old backroom staff says, guy lacks passion. Yeah. Benny McCarthy in that. Benny, like, he's worked with him a long time, said, yes, lacks passion. He doesn't get his point across in the way that you want. So you bring in these new guys, but then guess what? Under the new guys, we haven't done this. We haven't done that. Like, it hasn't gone up a level. We can say, yes, we have good spells in the game, but then we've not played anyone of note. And when we have played them, we've been decimated. And I haven't seen none of those spells that we had before. They don't exist anymore. So then after we say, okay, cool. You tell us you would like Agate. Agate could fill the whole good player, this, that, and the other. We scout, we do all the work. Big game in Europa, doesn't play, doesn't touch the pitch at all. That's strange. It's a lot of money, but it's okay. You know what? It is what it is. Leacher, delete. I've been waiting for my steady back four to come in. I just need these guys and everything will be fine. It's going to be fine. I'm telling you, when these guys get in and when this player gets in that know my style and they worked with me before, all is well. Those two players he hooks off at the same time for Impressing that he's taken the armband off. And Johnny Evans that came here on like a trial to get fit because he was just hanging about. That tells me that's all I need to know about this situation. I look at this here. Then after Xerxes, again, another player, like, he doesn't start, puts him in, you get into Anthony. Mate, you're just desperate. That's all you are. And then after, you told us the season of, we're not sure about Rashford, this, that, and the other. All the times when we was asking for Rashford rotation, you decide, guess what, everybody? Scored a goal and assist. Now's the time to rotate. Mate, he was putting up stinkers after stinkers all last season. That was the rotation moment. Yeah. You had players. Not at all. So don't give me rotation now. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and I remember it was an episode of the Trinity. I don't know if it was after the season that ended or right towards the end of last season. And Flex was talking about some of the things that Ten Hag was saying in press conferences after defeats. And his point at the time was, I get that you've got to come out and say stuff, and I get you got to back your players, whatever, but don't say mad shit, basically. And me and you kind of pushed back on it. We were like, no, sometimes, you're going to get criticized either way. Sometimes you just got to say those things, and Erik lies, but it is what it is. But last night in that post-match presser, he was saying some of the wildest stuff. And I at this point, I feel like he must do it on purpose as like a troll. Yeah. He must, because like he was asked about the goals conceding, the stats we've mentioned them previously about conceding 3 goals. Like only a couple of Premier League managers have had more 3-goal defeats, plus goal defeats, or conceding 2+ goals or what have you. And he was asked about that, going like, why are you conceding all these goals? Because again, as you mentioned, your back four settled. You got your goalkeeper now. Like, so what's going on there? And he was like, well, we have kept 4 clean sheets this season. And everyone went, yeah, but against who? Like Fulham, Southampton, Crystal Palace, and Barnsley. And even in those, Southampton, Andre Onana saved a penalty. Crystal Palace, he made a double save. That's one of the saves of the season. So let's not like pretend you're shutting teams out every week. And also, you get those 3 teams. That's beyond the point. We're talking about here that when we do play anyone that's got even like a fraction of quality, we concede 3+ goals. So don't come in this presser and then start saying, well, we actually kept 4 clean sheets and people weren't complaining then. People were still complaining then, going, we're still conceding chances. What are you talking about, Erik? And then with the Rashford stuff, well, it's rotation. And he goes, yeah, well, I really wanted to get Garnacho into the game. That's what he was. I really wanted to get Garnacho, and he was the best player on Sunday. He was the best player on Sunday. Yeah. That's what he said. He's best player on Sunday. So I wanted to get him into the team. He's had a great start to the season. And then someone said, well, was it about Rashford, not defending? He went, well, they were getting a lot down the left-hand side, and Marcus contributes to that, but so does everyone. But he goes, but it wasn't about that. I took him off because I wanted Alejandro Garnacho to come on. And you're going like, well, you talk about mixed signals there. And once again, to your point, at this point, you're just coming across as deluded, because you're saying, and this is Flex's point towards the end of last season, you're saying mad shit. That doesn't make any sense. Like, there is a way to conduct yourself in those press conferences or in those interviews after negative results, which is you just say short stuff. It's not good. It'll get better. We'll try and get it better, blah, blah, blah. But like these weird sort of defending of players that are letting them down or tactics that don't make any sense, it's just bizarre. And it just makes him look even worse than he already is at the moment. And you can't back it. You can't defend that.
It's just because there's a lot of things, and I want to make sure that we focus on him, players, and just all round United thing, right? But what we do have to say, this guy is in these interviews. I remember doing the fan view yesterday, and I goes, okay, not gonna watch what he has to say, but I imagine he's gonna say this, yeah. And it was close. It was close. It was so close. We showed fight. We showed great character, good mentality, mate. How can you? And this is the mistake. Don't call it good mentality or show fight and character. You was 2-0 up away from home.
Yeah.
2-0 up away from home says we should see this game out because we was in the driving seat only to succumb to a last minute. You literally said do or die. You threw the kitchen. You literally did what AJ had to do, but AJ got knocked out. You know, he said roll the dice. That's what he said. And Maguire stepped up and he got something. Got a nice little draw for ourselves. But how can you be 2-0 up cruising to roll in the dice and it's all going wrong? That doesn't make sense to me. Don't tell me about mentality, because the mentality was clearly wrong to succumb to those 2 goals. In the team, something goes wrong. And then we talk about mentality. Bruno's got back-to-back red cards. That's not good mentality. That's not, you can't dress, Bruno, we can't dress this up. Unless Bruno's doing this on purpose to get him gone, and he's like, yeah, make it harder. Like, I want to understand why we're doing this. Now, I don't believe that's what Bruno's doing. I believe Bruno's just playing like crap. You know what I'm saying? I think Bruno's just playing like absolute trash. But guess what? If we're going to do this thing of saying we're hanging Casemiro out to dry, or we're hanging all these players out to dry, why not for Bruno? Why not for Rashi? Why not for De Ligt? Why not for Licha? Why not for Mazraoui? All these players, why not for Delo? Why not for Ahmad? Why not for Garnacho? No one's working in this system.
Yeah.
So now, like, this is the thing. Like, I get there's some players that we like, players that we don't like, this, that, and the other. But now the whole thing as a whole is a problem.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the players as well, because obviously there's also been a bit of a pushback that, you know, I don't know if you've seen some of the social media posts from some of the players like after the game. Obviously, there was the Rasmus one, 6 weeks to do this celebration or whatever. To learn the celebration, he has come out.
He did that, innit? He didn't. He's not, because they were stuck in the dressing room. They didn't let them out. They kept them in there for about an hour and a bit.
He's come out today and put something on his Instagram story saying, "I've seen some anger about my post yesterday. I never intended that. I was only happy to be back out there on the score sheet again after a tough few weeks, but I couldn't play and score. Obviously, we go for the win, and I'll give everything to make you guys happy. Sorry, yesterday's post was not the case. Let's move on and getting ready to give everything again on Sunday." But he wasn't the only one. Like Diogo Dalot posted today, special night in a special stadium. Learnings to take. Thank you for the incredible support with the bicep emoji. And you're just going like, look, chances are, to your point, it's not the players that do these posts. They have PR people and agencies that run those accounts. But I'd sack them then. I'd go, guys, you're as someone myself who's worked in social media previously in another career, I'd be going like, can you not read the room? Like, what are you doing? Did you not pay any attention? Or did you just literally not watch the game, not take the, what's everyone thinking here at the fan base at the moment? Did you just go, well, they didn't lose, that equals positive post. Let's just put that out. And that's what it probably was, you know, and it just doesn't help, does it? And then, like you said, when you do focus on the performances on the pitch, to a man, you can't, you know, like even last season when it wasn't great and we had the injuries, whatever, but you could look at maybe certain players and go, but at least this guy's giving it, or this guy's performing. I can't think of any player in that squad at the moment where I look at them and I go, yeah, they've been really, really good. You know, they go in and out, all of them. They go in and out, and then it gets to back to the territory. You circle back to the coach. We go, right, is it maybe they're not as good as we think they are? All right, maybe they're just not what we thought. But also, no, they got to be better than that. They got to be better than that. This is still an international team of international players. Like the system, it's flawed. I mean, how chaotic was that match? It's pure chaos.
Mate, this is the problem. We saw in this game, and I'm not going to take credit for Mina's points. Mina says any coach that has their system has to be 100% for it to work is not a good system. Yeah. Ten Hag style to go to get across. Everyone has to do their job at 100%. They can't go beneath, not even 80. Everyone has to run. Everyone has to literally. No one can. It's super system, but it's a system that is flawed. That's all we're seeing. And now it's not a surprise. Why does Ugarte look like that in the midfield?
Yeah, and like you said, I think you said it yesterday, didn't you? You went, every person we sign looks worse, and you went like, well, It can't be because they're all just awful. You know what I mean? There's a reason. There's a reason they're getting worse. Or also, I remember saying during the game when they go, oh, "It's a great game for the neutral," and I remember you going, "I don't want that. I don't want a great game for the neutral. I want to see a game where I win and I dominate. I don't want to see like that kind of entertainment.
I don't want that entertainment. That's the worst thing. Exactly. The neutral thoroughly entertained yesterday. How many goals? 5 goals? Oh,
6.
6 goals. Yes, because I still have us lose. I didn't even, even know perfectly predicting the moment, right? Yeah. These guys, Mazraoui's turned up. I like him. Good player. Confident on the ball.
You sound like Sir Jim. I like him.
I like him. You know what? Guess what's happened? You know what? Even in that, guess what's happened? It's like he's infected. Delete. Yeah. He shouldn't look like that. They Bayern fans didn't want to see him leave. They all came together to say, a petition to say, please do not let go of this man. Guess what Man United do? We do this. Nobody, even Don Carlo can't believe. He probably says, Casemiro, are you sure this is what they think about Casemiro? The Casemiro I had. Yes, Don.
He cried over, allegedly, don't go.
Don't go. Casemiro, I was crying over. You're telling me he looks like what? There's no way. All of these players are having these moments. And guess what? Out of Man United, they'll be fine and wonderful. They'll be dandy. Out of this situation, out of this club, they're going to be okay. The simple matter is we played Galatasaray last year, yeah? And we surrendered the scorelines in a similar fashion.
Yeah.
In a similar fashion.
Yeah.
Someone reminded me that the one game that we won in 1 in 10, we scored a late, Onana had to save a penalty and we won 1-0.
Yeah.
Like,
I
can't remember who that win was.
Home to Copenhagen, I think it was.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
The 10 sides that we've played in Europe, yeah? The 10 times we played in Europe, we played some meaty sides that we should be beating.
Remember when that group got drawn last season and we went Bayern, all right, tough. We went, but Galatasaray, Copenhagen, we went, we'll get second in that group. we'll get second. And then we looked at these teams we got drawn against this time in the Europa, the 4 games home and away, the 8 games rather. We looked at all of them and went, wow, should be winning all of them then, obviously. And actually, you have to like check yourself a little bit, going, how arrogant are we? We're just going like, oh,
no, don't check yourself.
We'll beat those teams in Europe or whatever. What evidence is there in the last 10 games that we're going to do that?
I respect it, but don't check yourself, because when we check ourselves, we're now overly lowering the standard. Man United should beat Brighton.
I'm not lowering the standard to say like, we shouldn't be doing that. I'm saying that how arrogant am I to think that we were going to do that? But when the evidence is there that we're not going to do that, but you're right. We're playing FC Twente at home. Of course, you're meant to be beating them. If they were playing in the Premier League, they'd be relegation team, wouldn't they? Let's be honest here. No disrespect, but let's face it, that's the case. But like, there's no evidence actually we're going to. There's a reason last night when we went 2-0 down, me and you went, oh, more goals are on their way, because we know.
We were so clear. That was the funniest part, really. We were so clear about what was going to happen. We knew it. I'm sick of it though. I am annoyed. As a United fan, we have these moments of clarity, and I feel like I'm having like a rude awakening, and it just doesn't feel good. As someone that I've backed this manager the whole way. I backed this manager like more than I've backed any other manager really post Fergie. I didn't give Jose this level of these allowances. I haven't given.
Did you see that on social media? There was a screen grab of you, and it might have been the first thing I think you ever did on United Stand at the time. It was the Jose out thing, I think it was, and then it was like from this to this, and it was the screen grab of you last Sunday, and it was like it's the same, and it's true. It's like we're stuck, haven't we? You know what I mean? But I don't think that's.
I haven't even seen that, but that'll probably make me laugh.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, doesn't it? Just that's where we are. But there's a very interesting thing people have been putting on social media today, and this is it's a phenomenon, psychological phenomenon called the sunk cost fallacy, KG. Now,
Okay.
and it basically says this, and people are saying this is Man United, and I think the sort of the backing of Erik ten Hag at the moment. The sunk cost fallacy is a phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have heavily invested in it, even when it's clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. And I think maybe over the last 6 to 9 months, that probably sums up quite a lot of the backing of Erik ten Hag, which is deep down, and I put myself in this as well, but deep down, it's kind of like, you know what? You know, I've gone out publicly, and like you said, I've backed this guy so hard, and I've supported him so hard. And you know, and maybe other managers, like you said, with other managers, maybe there's an element of regret that I maybe didn't back them more than maybe I should have at the time, and player power and all those kind of buzzwords. So you know what? This time I'm not going to do it. This time I'm not going to flip. This time I'm not going to switch. When even though the reality is, you look at it and you go, actually, probably abandoning this, it is the right thing to do, and maybe it should have been done earlier, but I've invested so much of this. No, it doesn't have to be financially, but I've invested so much emotionally into this that I want it. It has to succeed, because in your brain, it's got to succeed. This has to work out. This has to work out. And then sometimes the reality is sometimes things don't work out, you know, and sometimes you have to go on a different course, even if it does mean taking some steps back.
This analogy. I like this. Is this a theory?
It's a sunk cost fallacy. It's a psychological phenomenon. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's a good theory, right? Because I can see where the parts where I can connect with it, and I see the parts like I'm not afraid to change my mind and say I don't feel that anymore. You know, that's something I can do. You know what I mean? And raise my hand up and say, yes, this is this, that, and the other, right? Yep, I accept it. Silly me. Oh well, you know. But look, I'm looking at the evidence, right? There is that part though, the beginning part when it says, I remember picking Pogba over Jose.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that being a big moment of why has he done that to him? Like, he's a good player, won the World Cup. Why are you so angry? Like, what's wrong with you, Jose? You know, and Jose was doing things to be stupid though. Like, she's, you know, like heritage. Remember that one? He spoke about these other teams that win all the time, and like who are we to say I can't remember who knocked us out of that competition. Yeah. That's it. And that pissed me off.
Or his last game, he played like a back six against Liverpool at Anfield.
Chelsea done mad things, but then I did pick, when it comes down to it, when you talk about player power, I picked Pogba and the man them over the club, really, in that moment. And then it's in the Ollie era, I'm not saying I gave up on Ollie early, but I didn't give Ollie the allowances that I'm giving to Ten Hag. Like, I think I've given Ten Hag more time, but I was like, did I give up? I'm not saying did I give up too early, but I said, I'm going to make sure I give this manager the best level of backing I can do. That was the promise I said to myself. I'm going to try my best to back this manager.
Do you think that was because maybe the sort of coaching pedigree? You know what I mean? Because the sort of feeling under Ollie, wasn't it, of just, well, this guy's just maybe not the best coach, and if we get in a top tactical coach that speaks the language of football, that's all we need. And maybe we kind of overcompensated a little bit and went, that, you know, that kind of like personality, charisma, aura, like it shouldn't work this way, but it does in modern day football. Like, got to have that little bit of both. The media's got to like you, the players have got to like you. Like, that's important.
No, but I think there's other variables, because it's not as cut and dry. It's not black and white, this situation, right? There's loads of different variables that we do have to take into account. The Man United managers will never be liked like a Liverpool manager, or it's just not going to happen. If Poch turned up here today, who Poch's loved, no one had no bad word to say about him when he was killing Chelsea, turn up to Man United, they'd hate him. You know, anyone that
Ollie got a fair go by the media, didn't he? He because he had a lot of friends in the media.
Wait, the friends, not the others. His friends.
But it wasn't as bad as what it is with Erik now. Ollie got a much fairer ride,
yeah,
a
Ollie,
much fairer ride than Erik.
Definitely. But you always have to contest with that one. There was a point I was going to make about the journey with this guy. So this is it. You know, when you say you're going to hold on because you think of the pedigree and you think of, okay, the other part of it was, well, I've seen the damage of if we don't have stability, what this means for the club. So in the years we've had chopped and changed and brought in these different managers, we've got all these range of different players that don't work for the next manager. You know, we had this whole group of players that was like, some was from LVG, some was from Ollie, and it was a mixer, some was from Mourinho. And Man United can't operate like that. So I wanted to continue with Ten Hag just for the continuity, and these players are another year in working together, another year in the system, they know how to do this now. So that was some of the thinking as well. It wasn't as simple as, you know, I just don't want to sack him, I just don't want to be wrong. There was literally, well, look at all that's gone wrong here, and look at the damage that's caused of having to clear out everything else someone else has bought before starting the project again. I don't want to do that. If this guy can fix this, we're good. The only thing is, he can't at the moment.
Yeah, and it's not worked. You know what I mean? That's also part of the problem. And you know what? It's funny you mentioned about the having the players in, because I did think that. I thought, let's say Erik does go, which I think he will, and whoever comes in, he will be dealing with however long he's going to be there. The next guy, let's say for the next few years, he'll be dealing with largely a team built in the image of Erik Ten Hag. I mean, literally players Ten Hag has worked with previously in his career. It's essentially an Ajax back five with Onana, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez.
Yeah.
You know, you've also got other ex-Ajax players in the squad, whether it be Anthony or Dutch players in the squad. You go, oh, is a coach going to struggle with that? But then my initial reaction to that was, well, and this goes back to the criticism of Erik, isn't it? Well, if you're a good coach, regardless of if it's, you know, exactly your squad or whatever, because no manager, unless they're like Pep or, you know, Klopp when he was there, to an extent Arteta now has been there a while, you never have your full squad really that often. Don't really work like that. And football, as we say, is a results-based industry. The best coaches can go in, they get results quickly. Unai Emery, great example. One of the best examples of this. Goes in, a Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa, yeah? Goes in, immediately gets results. You keep getting results, you can bring more players in. Now, obviously, he's been there a little bit longer. He's got more of his players in there. He's got his director of football there in there. Sporting director, same guy he had previously when he was working in Spain. So that helps him too. But it's kind of like the fundamentals come first of the results are there, and you realize this guy's definitely the guy. This guy is achieving things and getting results. And obviously, look, Ten Hag's won trophies, but bread and butter in the league. You know, he takes Villa from being relegation zone to qualifying. First season they were in Europa Conference League, weren't they? So he got at least, I think, 7th in the league. Last season finishes in the top 4. So you start building stuff around him because it's obvious it's working. Like again, and that goes back to the cup stuff, isn't it? Of yeah, you can obviously have cups and trophies and they're nice and we celebrate them, but you can't have that to the expense of what you're doing in the league. Well, we don't really know. There's not really consistent improvement. We're hoping that it's going to get better, and it's just sort of constant regression. And now
where we should have stopped it though, Owen, is when we brought in this leadership team. The plan was we're buying players that another manager could use. We're not buying players that
right.
So we still got to, so that this season's players should be fine for the next person that comes in, because we're saying, well, the type of football Man United want to play. If we're talking about, we was ranting and raving about the transfer window and why it was good. Yes, he didn't have his veto, but it was a group that came together and believe De Ligt can offer something. A group came together and said Xerxes could give us this piece. The group came together and said Euro it's a generation player. Yeah, exactly. Whoever's in charge, sign him. The group came together. I think it must have come together and said Mazraoui, right? So those players were bought for a specific reason. Now the other players that you're gonna get, while I think there's some quality in the squad, is you're gonna get to inherit a Kobe, inherit a Garnacho, inherit Ahmad. Rashford's story is a crazy one. Casemiro, they can say, okay, this is interesting, right? But then Shaw's another one on the interesting block. But then even Rasmus is a young player. Like, these are now interesting signings to inherit. The only thing is, can we set up properly? And what I like to see, even from the manager in these other games, or let's change the shape altogether. Change it. Change the way we approach games. Like, this is not working. We are easy to score. If you got the record of you concede, you're the most guy to concede over 3 goals in a game.
Yeah.
Your formation doesn't work. So I know it's against how you want to play, but no one could want this, what we are now. Change it completely.
Yeah.
Be open to it.
It's funny, isn't it? Because he did. Like, towards the end of last season, he went with the 4-2-4, 4-4-2 to shore things up. And it did work a bit, didn't it? It did work a bit. But it was never really a permanent solution, because he started it at the beginning of this season whilst Xerxes wasn't match fit and Rasmus was injured. So he did it again. And then it was around that Brighton game, wasn't it? Where it was like, actually, this isn't really working. And then, like you said, what's strange to that is the solution to that kind of not working anymore was, well, we'll just go back to what we were doing last season. And you go, but it wasn't working. It wasn't working last season. So why are you going back to stuff that isn't working anymore? And I don't know. It's just, you feel like sometimes in certain games, you see those managers on the touchline of, they change their team, they change the shape, or things get shifted around. And you do feel like whenever that happens, you just don't have an answer for it. They look just confused by it. They go, we don't know what to do in response to that. Like,
it was so obvious. We saw McKenna, we saw the manager yesterday. We've seen this different style of football where Porto's a perfect example. Me and you was quickly watching a game. We don't have our box. We don't have a USB. We're not at that level, right? We quickly realized, oh, this is how these lot play. 13 minutes in, I make the joke of, yeah, hopefully Ten Hag watched this so he knows what he's going up against, because I'm just seeing now. Yeah, they get the ball out wide and they whip it in. There's that lovely cross and they know they got pace. So their whole plan was, we're going to do this every single time.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't stop. And if they did get the runner on, if they got the run on the defender, they're going to go at the goal. But we know we're pacing behind and we're going to whip them in. We're going to whip chances in. I would love to see how many times they played that ball in. Man United, what was our plan?
We just waited, basically. Like, you're right. We remember saying, like, 10 minutes in, we both went, oh, they do the ball over the top and they go out wide, whip it in. That's what they do. Every time. Every time.
Wait for a knockdown.
Yeah, every time. So if you see that, and even if you haven't done your research yet and you go, oh, they're doing this, that is where, and even I said this in the, I think the last game, I said, even if it's performative, right? And it's difficult sometimes on the touchline because it's loud, you can't get your message across. Fucking get on the touchline, start screaming at your fullback, start screaming at your wingers going, block that effing cross, stop the cross, do all that kind of stuff. Just do something, you know what I mean? Do something so the fans can kind of buy into that. But we don't really see that.
And we don't do it. That's the part. We don't do that. That do something part. We don't do it. We don't learn. You know, like, I want to see, and that's the...
Do you know what gets overlooked, actually, KG? I forgot this happened, right? I think, which game was it? Was it the Palace one at the end of last season? Remember, there was a banner. Away fans, a banner. Play like you mean it. That wasn't that long ago. That wasn't that long ago. And it's kind of like with the FA Cup, that got lost too, that play like you mean it thing. And I saw a picture of that the other day. I went, that was only a few months ago that happened, actually. And the reality is, the FA Cup, whatever, that did paper over that, not just of the manager, but also the players of like, oh, that was last season now. And I'm guilty of this. I went, let's not talk about last season, but when the continuation it's the same stuff as last season, then you're forced to look back at it and go, all right, so those excuses we said last season weren't true because we're
play like you mean it. Saying play like you mean it, and then the same players going out there against, I'm trying to think of FC20, and then Ericsson says they wanted it more than us.
More, yeah.
I remember Adam saying that. Imagine the sign saying play like you mean it, and then saying play, they wanted it more. Why do they want it more? Ericsson? What have you lot achieved that they want it more? That's the thing. When you talk about, like, even when we like spend this time now on the players and stuff. Like Bruno Fernandes, it's mind-boggling. Casemiro, it's the decision making in game that is scary. Lisandro Martinez, what the F has happened?
Yeah.
He would come out and clear it. He would come out and clear it. I don't know if now that's that interview with Pep, not interview with Pep, but that interview with Rio and I don't know, I think it was Gary Neville in that, when he had that lovely conversation and he's coming up and saying, look, I'm a leader, I know what to do, this, that, and the other.
Oh, yeah.
Well. Yeah. I don't know if that interview gassed him, but literally he's playing like you're playing the hype, you're playing your how you're looked at, how you're viewed in the league as this hard man that does this. Bro, defend. Forget about your whole aura that you built up and what people think about your reputation. Brother, defend. You can't be caught in two minds. Get out there, get to them. Delo, you as well. What? And all this focus, and I get his positioning is the way we're set up, but mate, if someone runs past you, don't just go, can't do nothing about that.
Yeah.
This is like all over the pitch. You got De Ligt breathing as heavy as possible.
Yeah.
Mate, what is going on? Why don't you not understand?
I just checked because I wanted to make sure I got my dates right with that play like you mean it thing. It's actually a bit earlier than I thought it was. So it was against Fulham last year at Craven Cottage. It was around beginning of November. I think it might have been because I see all these articles from the 7th of November about 10 hours talking about it. So we're nearly a year removed from that, right? The play like you mean it thing. And it's mad that a year later or less than a year later, we're having the same conversation about play like you mean it. Play like you mean it. And if that's not the sign of actually nothing's changed actually on the playing side of things and the coaching side of things, then I don't know what that is. And the fact that, again, that kind of gets lost, you know, the whole play like you mean it thing. And I don't know. And the one thing that it is quite interesting now about what will happen next is, so let's say, you know, United do make a change. I mean, there's obviously the talk about, well, Rude might become the interim, blah, blah, blah. It does. Obviously, there's still a lot of time left of the season. It is still salvageable. But I don't, it's the job. You know, when Erik came in.
I'm seeing something here, though. It's saying it's Tancredi Palmari.
Oh, yeah. There was a report. There was a report coming out from Italy earlier on. And again, whether or not you believe it or not, how credible the source is, he was suggesting that Man United had offered the job to Simone Inzaghi, of course, the Inter Milan head coach, with immediate effect, but allegedly Inzaghi declined. Again, whether or not that's true, time will only tell. But what is quite interesting about it is that if that was an appointment that Ineos went to make, I'd be very happy with that. Very, very happy. But I don't know, again, how accurate that really is. But it's one of those ones where
we're making moves.
Well, you know what I said beginning of the week, and it was, well, what would you be doing if you were Ineos right now? My response was that then, and it still would be at the moment, definitely after last night, would be, I'll be talking to people. I'll be reaching out. I'll go, right, who's available? Thomas Tuchel fell apart in the summer, allegedly over, you know, compensation finances. I'd be starting having conversations going, how much can we about those finances? How possible is that? Thomas, are you enjoying your vacation? Are you interested?
Thomas, and these guys love football. They're going to want to come. Thomas, if we said to him, big man, let's get to work. I think now he's seriously considering it. These guys want to manage at the highest level and they don't want to be at home. They don't. Like, they can tell you, you look how quick Poch took the American job. Yeah. Like, he didn't waste any time. Like, these guys, they start to they're at home, just like, what are we doing? What's going on? What's the plan? Do you want to go take over Man United? Do you want to go into that club and make things better? I'd fancy that. And these guys are big egos, big. Thomas Tuchel, I could imagine, wouldn't mind the job. I don't know if Inzaghi will be able to get away with leaving Inter and coming to Man United.
It'd be a tough sell for United. It'd be a tough
leaving a team in the lurch like that. Like,
and they won Serie A last season. The season before that, Champions League final. And we're talking about working with the players. he was the manager in that Champions League final. He's got Andre Onana spraying the ball around. Everyone's going, I tell you what, Andre Onana's bloody good, isn't he? You know, Simone Inzaghi's team plays with a back five. How would that translate to Manchester United? But maybe that's what we need. Yeah, maybe that's what we need. Yeah.
What does he do? Back five, and what does he do? Two up front.
Well, he had a really interesting one last season, didn't he? Because he had like, was it Dzeko and Lukaku? Didn't he have last? Who did he have? No, was it Martinez? Martinez and Lukaku last season.
Yeah, Laurentino Martinez. Yeah.
Because Lukaku was at Roma last season. It was like 2 seasons ago. Yeah, he had. But the point being is, look, he's been very, very successful at Inter Milan, and again, whether or not we're talking about charisma and being able to communicate, I don't know what his English is like, so that would be a thing maybe to consider if he comes across.
Okay. Anymore.
But look, if I was Ineos, I'd be chatting. And let's not pretend that Omar Barada doesn't have connections all across Europe, you know, to all of these.
They're on the phone right now. They know what's going on. Their fingers are on the pulse, and we're gonna shit the bed against Aston Villa. We will. We're gonna shit the bed.
Well, this would be one, isn't it? It'd be like with Omar Barada. We've talked about how much of a perfectionist and his obsession. That's how we signed Lenny Oro and some of the business over the summer. And we were like, can't believe they've done that or whatever. Does Ineos have another rabbit out of the hat? Because again, a couple of the signings, we're like, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. Player signed, done. You speak about Simone Inzaghi, that'd be impossible to get him away from Inter Milan. Who's to say? Who's to say it would be impossible? Maybe they sell the dream. You know, with Thomas Tuchel, maybe they come over that bridge and just go, look, we figured it out. You know, who's to say?
Right now, I would love something different. I don't even think it's going to fix it at the moment. But the decline that we're on, if we continue like this is, you really got to think about these 40 points. Like, just rack up the points and be safe.
Are you in that territory?
Absolutely. I just want positive goal difference.
Yeah,
I'm going for a positive goal. This season, I'm asking for, I was talking about top 4 title charge. Yeah. You know, like just being on like near the end of the end of the season, you know, 4 or 5 weeks to go, and we kind of fade off. Mate, we're off already. Now we're talking about, go ahead, what do you want?
I want to have an away game against a top 6 side and not go into it and immediately know we're going to lose. You know what I mean? I want that.
That's too much, mate.
I don't know if I am. I don't know if I don't know if I want to be able to be like, who we got the weekend? We got Spurs away, or we got Brighton away, or we got, you know, well then go, we win that. We win that one. You know, we can do that. We got Newcastle away, tough place to go. But I tell you what, again, you know, like sometimes you see these bigger teams and into the weekend as like a hater, you go, oh, they got to go to Newcastle away, or they got to go to so-and-so away. They ain't winning that. And when it is, and then they go 2-0 up like us last night, and you switch off, you go, there's no point watching this now.
Yeah.
They've won the game. I want that. That's what I want.
No, now you're asking, now you're getting too far. You're saying you want to be 2-0 up and want to be able to say we're going to win that game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But there you go, guys. That is episode 33 of the Trinity podcast, possibly or possibly not powered by Dan Gore. It's up in the air right now, the status of whether or not he's going to be
powered by Malassia.
Powered by, oh, come on, KG, we can't do that. We can't. We can't. What's on tap for the rest of the weekend? Well, of course, Saturday we'll have match preview with KG and myself. I believe, actually, KG, there's going to be a video of your latest part of your optimized journey on Saturday as well. I've heard some rumors about that. So you can see the latest. Well, you can see the living, breathing proof right here with KG. Look at him; he's optimized.
Yes. And then wait, hold on. So we got the preview. Then what else is there?
Then Sunday, of course, it's match day. There will be Aston Villa versus Manchester United. It's an away game, so it'll be Flex, KG, and someone else inside UVHQ. I'll be live for the pre-match. What's KG looking at off screen?
A coffee? No,
it's fine.
Perfect. Yeah, I was flagging.
Needed. So yes, KG will be inside UVHQ with Flex and the team to maybe watch Erik ten Hag's last game. I'll be live 2 hours before kickoff, 12 p.m. It's a 2 o'clock kickoff. And we'll see what happens. And then we'll be back this time next week with episode 34 of the
I will not be here. I'll be in Saudi.
Oh, is there another big boxing fight? Well, this poster here will be over here. And we definitely know we won't hear from KG because the sort of the Saudi internet connection.
Hopefully they fixed it. You never know. They're
really maybe KG's got connections, so you never know. Anyway, guys, have a good weekend. We're out of here. Peace.